Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to episode 5, I believe, of the Economy mini-series. Now, this episode is very special, and I know that it's the one you've all been waiting for because we are finally going to write Vault implementation. We're going to write the code that will be able to connect our little Economy plugin to Vault so that any plugin with Vault support, and there are a lot of them out there, will be able to tap into the power of our economy. So this is the big amalgamation of everything, and I will do a testing video just to demonstrate that everything works. And maybe there will be a bug or two that I'll fix. So before we start, you're going to want to head over to the Vault page on Bukkit Dev. This will, of course, be in the description. And you're going to want to go ahead and download the latest version. At this time, the latest version does not say that it has explicit support for 1.7 or 1.7 point anything. But it should work fine. And if not, then we may just have to wait for the update. So I've already gone ahead and downloaded it, and I've put it in the plugins folder of the testing server. So we can head over to Eclipse right here, and we have our Economy 29 project, and you guys know how to do this, but we just need to go ahead and add the external jar, and we want to go to plugins, and there's Vault. So let's go ahead and add Vault. So now we have Vault support. So now we're going to go ahead and write, we're going to make a new class, and we're going to call this Vault Connector. And so we're going to have our public class Vault Connector implements economy. And you're going to go ahead and import that, and you'll see that it will import this net.milkbowl.vault.economy.economy. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was episode 7 when I showed you guys how to use Vault to do stuff from an existing economy. You know, this is basically how we did it. We had our economy class, and we did the setup method, but we ended up with an economy class. So now we're actually making an economy class. And you'll see that this turns red because there are a bunch of different things. There are a bunch of different methods that we need to implement. So let's go ahead and do add unimplemented methods. And wow, it added a lot. These are all of the different methods that are required in a Vault economy implementation. So we can go through here and look, and now there's some things here that we're actually not going to implement. So like this Vault bank balance, bank deposit, bank has, bank withdraw, create bank, all of these different things, we're going to ignore like the banks because we don't have that implemented. So I think we can just go ahead and leave all of those because there will be a method later on that we'll use. So we have our create player account, and so we can go ahead and say create player account string name, and the name will be so the name is the name of the player. So we can go ahead and say settings manager dot get instance dot get balance for bucket dot get server dot get player name. Now that should get balance will return config dot get int. And it looks like, okay, so we just want to do set balance. So set balance for player, and we're going to set it to 0. And what that's going to do is it's going to set money.playerName to the amount, and if it doesn't exist, then, you know, we'll go ahead and do this. But now what we actually, I think create player account, it says it returns a boolean, and we'll just go ahead and return true. I believe that should work, and, you know, if there's any problems with this, then I will look into it. Okay, create player account, and that takes 2 strings. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so the interesting thing about Vault is the multi-world support. So anytime you see a method that has 1 string, it is the name of the player. Anytime you see 2 strings, it is the name of the player and the world. Now, since we don't have multi-world support, we're just going to go ahead and say return create player account name. So, I can't type. So we're essentially just ignoring the world. Sorry about that. It'll go away in a second. So then here we have, fairly obvious, our currency name plural. We'll just return dollars, and the singular will be dollar. And now, normally, I guess in an economy, you'd customize that, but it's not too important. Now, here we are at the economy for deposit player. Now, the economy response class, and yes, I know I don't have that set up, so you can't really see it, but the economy response, it is a class from Vault, and that will... So we're going to create the economy response when we go to deposit the player. So this is deposit money to the player. So this is going to be string name and double amount. And then we are going to go ahead and say settings manager.getInstance.add balance name and amounts. We need to cast amount to an integer because that's how we're storing it. And then, what's wrong with that? Oh, yes. Bucket.getServer.getPlayer for name. And then we're going to say return new economy response. And I need to check out, let's see what the variables are. It takes 2 doubles, a response type, and a string. So... let's go ahead and take a look at how to do that. Alright, so it looks like we can go ahead and leave the first 2 numbers as 0. So here, it takes 2 balance, it takes the amount, the balance, the response type, and the error message. So we're going to return, so for 0, 0, response type dot success, and the error message we can just ignore, and that should be good. Actually, hang on one second. I think that we actually want to do amount and settings manager dot get instance dot get balance for bucket.getServer.get player name. Okay, so that should work. And here again, this is the name, world, and amount. And we're just gonna say return deposit player name and amount. We're just ignoring world. Now this string format double, we're just gonna say return string.value of amount. Basically what that would be is if you're given like 2.5, then you might want to here, so we can return you know, dollars. So like so if it passed me 1.25, it would return dollars 1.25 or whatever. Public int fractional digits. I think that's the number of digits in the number, so we'll just say 2. Now here's our public double get balance. So we'll say return settings manager dot get instance dot get balance for bucket dot get server dot get player name. And then here we can just say return get balance name, and this would also be name and world. Public list string get banks, we're going to ignore that because we don't actually have banks. And for name, we're going to return economy 29. For has, this is going to be string player and int amount. So we're going to go ahead and say return settings manager dot get instance dot get balance for bucket dot get server dot get player is greater than or equal to amount. So if it's greater than or equal to that amount, then they do have it. And again here, we're just going to do, it's a string world and double amount, and we're just going to say return has player amount. Has account, we're going to ignore. Has bank support, return false. So we left all of those bank account things unsupported or unfilled in, just return false or return null, because we're setting has bank support to false. So if anything tries to use bank support, it just won't work. So then now we have this is enabled, and we're just going to return bucket.getServer.get plugin manager.get plugin. Oh no, you know what? I'm sorry. We're gonna return. I think we have settings manager.get instance.get plugin is enabled. So if the plugin's enabled, then it will return true. If it's not, then it will return false. And the last two methods that we have right here are withdraw player, string player, double amount, string player, string world, and double amount. And now that, since we have a little bit of time, I'm actually going to take back one thing that I said. I have been, using this bucket.getServer.getPlayerName name and casting my integers to doubles, but in all honesty, it would probably be better to use strings and doubles, because that's what Vault likes, and it's also, they could modify the economy settings for a player even if they're not online. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do that. You can skip forward if you're not interested, but, we'll just, basically I'm just going through and string p, and then string p, and then string p, because honestly you don't need to give it a player, you can just give it a string. And then we are going to do get offline player for p, so that should work. So it would set their score, and even if they're offline, it still works. And that's really about it. We just also need to do double. So this will be a get double, and this is going to return a double. And then we're going to set it to a double amount, and we're going to make this a double amount, and we're going to make this a double amount. And that's really, and then we need to say int amount. So with the scoreboard, it'll only show, an approximation, but it's okay, and it's pretty easy. So now it actually just makes it easier. We can just say name, and then $, name, and amount, name, and get balance name, get balance for player. Okay. Alright, so now we're back to where we were before, and we're almost done. So we are going to say settings manager.get instance remove balance for player and amount. What we're actually going to do, and this is another quick change that we're going to make, is we're going to say return new economy response for, what did it want? It wanted the amount, the balance, which will be settings manager.get instance.get balance for player minus amount, because we're not subtracting it yet. And then we're going to say remove balance, or sorry, that's the last thing. It's going to be question mark response type dot success, response type dot failure. And the last thing is going to be insufficient funds, and that should be spelled correctly. Now, you guys might be wondering what this part, you you guys might be wondering what this part means. And basically what we're doing, this is basically the equivalent of writing an if statement, except I'm doing it in one line. So we're going to modify remove balance so it'll return a boolean. It will return true if it can remove, but if they don't have enough money, it will return false. And if it's true, then the response type will be success, and if it's false, then it'll be failure, and the error message will be insufficient funds if it doesn't work. So the last thing we have to do is we need to change this to a boolean, and we need to say if get balance for P is less than 0, return false, and then return true. So what we're doing is we're saying if the balance of the player, or sorry, if get balance minus amount, so if we get their balance and we take away the amount and it's less than 0, then we return false. So it'll return false and it won't change the balance at all. Otherwise, we want to set the balance, subtract the amount, and then we want to return true. So that would take care of that. And finally, return withdraw player for player and amount. And that should be it. There are a bunch of bank-related methods that we don't need to worry about. And if you guys are really interested in banks and stuff, I guess maybe I could make another little like advanced series in the future. Essentially, it's just it's like instead of each player keeping track of their money, you would multiple people could contribute to the same bank, and that would just be a feature that you would implement, and you guys could easily figure that out on your own. Now, that should take care of it, but we just need to make sure, sorry about that, guys. We just need to make sure that that should be good. Let me just check and make sure that we don't have to like register it or anything, so I'll be right back. Alright, so there's one more thing that we have to do. And so we're back in our main class, in our onEnable, and we just need to go ahead and register this, which I figured. So what we want to do is we want to say if bucket.getServer.get plugin manager .get plugin vault is not equal to null. So we're getting the plugin vault, and if it's not null, then we're going to go ahead and say bucket.getServer.getServicesManager. And this is a, I don't think that we've ever used this class before, but, and then we're going to go ahead and say .register. And first it's going to take a class, and it's going to be economy.class. And this economy class is coming from Vault. And then we're going to make a new Vault connector. And then the last two arguments, it wants a plugin, and it wants a service priority. And we'll just go ahead and set this for highest. And that should be it. Now, oh yes, we have to fix what's wrong with this. Get balance for p.getName, sorry. Alright, and basically, no, it's not going to do work. Alright, so we just have to quickly change this to a double amount, p.getName. Okay, and let's just quickly change that over here. And actually, we can probably, we could just remove this code. We can also, like, we don't really need this, player name, whatever, we can just say args0. So what is it? Yeah, so arg0 is the name, and we can just say removed mount from name, because we don't need the player to be online in order to do this. And then, alright. Now, one other thing that you would want to do is remove balance returns a boolean, so I guess you would probably want to check and see if that doesn't work. Okay. So, you can do that if you want. But now we will go ahead and say string name equals args0, and it's going to be name and name and name. Alright, so that's going to be all for this video. We learned how to implement a we learned how to link our economy plugin with Volt, so you can now use your economy plugin. Volt can now use your economy plugin. Now, between this episode and the next one, I'm going to make the plugin.yml, and I will show it to you guys, because there's one important line that I'm going to put in there that you need to have in yours. Then I'm just going to demonstrate that it works, maybe fix a bug or two, and then we are going to move on to permissions, and that's going to be basic, adding and removing and whatever of permissions. So that's going to be pretty cool. Alright, so that's all for the video. As always, subscribe if you want to see more, comment what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button, and I will see you guys soon with the last video of the economy mini series. Thanks, guys.